if you look on YouTube and every side hustle guy on the internet right now, it's like, make 10 grand a month, make 150 grand a month from copywriting or VAs or, you know, all of these types of things. And that's very overwhelming for the everyday person. If I say to you, got to go out and make £200 next month, you kind of go, yeah, I can do that. Even £300, you'd probably be like, yeah, I could probably find a way of doing that. You know, everyone listening to this podcast could probably do 500 quid. And then suddenly you've got your gap. You invest that profit, and then that's what then turns a small amount of money from your income and your side hustle into an absolute fortune. So when it comes to investing, you need to start thinking in decades rather than years. And if you think in decades, then you are immediately lowering your risk. There's a study done by Schroders that if you invest for 20 years or more, you have a 0.1% chance of losing money. And if it's 10 years, it's 2.6%. I'm taking that chance 247-365. I basically see steps of wealth like this really, really simply. Like,
you're not defined by where you come from.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big message that I always want to tell people.
Like you have to be able to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
When you grow up in ends, you don't realize it when you're confident, but you have an audacity to do things that ordinarily most people wouldn't be willing to do.
Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Atto. We have a special guest in the building, Sammie, who is a personal finance educator and founder of Up the Gains, a financial literacy platform to help people with their finances. Sammie, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, welcome. We were supposed to do this a few weeks ago, but you know, we had some mishaps, so we had to make it happen. Yeah, technical difficulty. It's crazy. So, like, how's the week been for yourself?
Good, mate. Good. Yeah. It's I'm sure you know, like running a podcast or a business like this, you know, it's just constant. You just keep going. There's a to-do list. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you just do it to yourself as well, man. Yeah. It's crazy.
I know. It's like we like pain or something. Yeah. It's like we just keep on adding to the pain. And it's mad. Okay. Obviously, I gave a bit of an intro into who you are, but like from your perspective, who you say Sammie is?
Yeah. So I run a financial literacy platform. It's basically a bit different to, say, what you might see in a normal, like, financial advisor type thing. My story is a bit different. I came from, like, quite a lot of debt in my mid-20s. I'm not financially trained. I taught myself to get out of it, started learning about personal finance and just, like, fell in love with it, basically. It was, like, my calling. I was in marketing for hospitality businesses and ended up setting a business up with two other friends of mine. And then I did that for a while, built Up the Gains on the side, kind of kicked off a little bit more in COVID, and then eventually just pulled the plug, sold my shares and went full time with Up the Gains, and it's been the best thing I've ever done, man. So
wow. So you sold the shares in the business.
Yeah,
wow. Yeah. Okay.
Fully left and everything. Like it was a pretty crazy situation. Wow. But yeah, I just was like, look, I need to do this. It got to the point where it had grown enough to kind of sustain itself and obviously like pay a bit of an income as well. But yeah, once we got to that point, man, I was like, let's do this. Like, you know, I fell into hospitality businesses. It was just like, I really enjoyed it. There was a lot about the job that I loved, but it's relentless. And I just did it because I was good at it. Yeah. Rather than like choosing it, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Just kind of fell into it and just worked through and was like, oh, cool. Like, this is fun. And then, this is like, I want to do this. Like, this is my thing. And I feel I can make a big difference. So.
Okay. Love that. We're going to definitely explore that a bit because I think that's quite interesting because we actually had a guest as well talking about being in a hospitality business and they're saying that was quite relentless and tough. So I want to hear a little bit more about that story as well.
For sure.
Imagine you're running a global e-commerce business where you're ordering so many products from abroad, you bought it at a great price and you're dreaming of the profits you're about to make. Only to remember that you're going to be charged high foreign exchange fees eating into your profits. That's so frustrating, right? Well, I've got a solution to that problem. I've partnered with the leading provider of multi-currency accounts, WorldFirst, who are kindly sponsoring this episode. WorldFirst One World Business Account enables you to receive international payments from your customers in 20 plus currencies from 130 plus online marketplaces, including Amazon, eBay, and TikTok with no collection fees. You can also pay in 90 plus currencies on the same day and instantly to other WorldFirst accounts, enabling you to manage all your international payments and expenses in a single platform. WorldFirst is used by 1 million plus businesses, and I'm not surprised. They offer the lowest FX fees on the market at 0.5%, which means you get to keep more of your money whilst expanding globally. You can open a One World business account for free with no monthly fee and earn a £200 bonus with your first 2 supply payments. Click the link in the description of this episode to sign up for a free WorldFirst account and use the code SIGNUPBONUS before the 14th of October to take advantage of this special offer. So yeah, let's talk about your story. Where are your parents from?
So where my parents from? So my parents are basically I'm South London raised, born in South London, grew up in a little town called St Albans in Hertfordshire. It was actually a city technically. It's got a cathedral. Apparently that's what you do. But so yeah, I grew up in St Albans, which is actually a really nice place to grow up. It was a nice place to grow up. But like everywhere, you know, it's always ranked on like some of the top cities to grow up in. But then, you know, it's like everywhere. It's like London, you know, you've got a council estate next to a multi-million pound mansion is exactly the same in St Albans. So, you know, it's like anywhere for me. I've been to millions of cities and they're all the same.
And how did you find it, like growing up in St Albans?
Yeah, cool. Like it was a good upbringing. Like I went to like an arts college.
Okay.
So it's connected to that. So I actually studied music at university. So it's completely different. So I've gone on this magic. I was making beats for rappers back in the day. I used to love it, man. Yeah, hip hop beats. And
that is funny.
My family runs jazz clubs, so I have
Seriously?
that kind of Ronnie Scott's in central London, Soho.
Okay.
So my granddad was a co-founder of Ronnie Scott's, and so I've kind of grown up in that kind of hospitality. My dad ran nightclubs, my mum ran restaurants and pubs, so I've just kind of lived in that environment, and that's kind of why I fell into hospitality, really. So that's kind of the kind of origins.
So what was school like for you? Did you go to school in St Albans as well?
Yeah, man, I was a naughty kid. Like I was I was the class clown, and because I didn't really know what I wanted to be or do, and so I thought that like acting up was my way of like doing it. And in the end, I kind of found it was probably because I kind of liked talking. Yeah. And I hadn't really found what I wanted to talk about, if you know what I mean. So I just thought that like playing the fool was a good thing. But luckily I came out of school with good grades, and since then calmed myself down.
Yeah, definitely. You're not class clown now. That's funny.
Well, you know, I'm on Instagram talking about personal finance. So, you know, you probably could say that still, but it's different.
You channeled it into the right thing, but
Exactly.
you're channeling the positive, aspects of yourself. So okay. So how did you get into marketing? How did that career start for you?
Yeah, so I started a business at university, which was, so basically instead of spending my student loan money, which I still did, by the way, but what we did was we used some of the money to start a music night. So I went to Southampton Uni, and down there wasn't really any cool nights for the type of music. It was kind of a cross between, do you remember when like Disclosure came out and stuff like that back in the day? It was like kind of a cross between garage and house. There was like a kind of like a movement that came out back then, and no one was doing nights like that, and it was like blowing up in the kind of 18 to 24 age range. So we put on this night and it like blew up, and so I started a business basically just running weekly nights in that genre, which was a lot of fun. But we spent all of our profits basically, and just that was my first taste of marketing, because it was like, okay, we booked this act, we pay this amount for this thing. Yeah. Now we need to fulfill the by bringing people in. How are we going to get people in? Well, we need to make artwork. We need to like promote it on Facebook. We need to get ticket reps out there, start selling tickets to the groups of friends and stuff. So it became this, like, and I just got addicted to it. I was like, this is like, I love it. And that's kind of carried me from there, and sort of moved from going, when I moved back to London, I was pretty tough to get a job in marketing. Might have started like at the lowest and went from sort of marketing exec to marketing director at sort of 29. So
wow, that's exceptional. Okay, let's talk about that. What are like some of the tidbits that you would like to share, or lessons that you learned in your journey from like marketing exec to director? Because that's quite cool.
What I come to find is that marketing is exactly the same. It's about fulfilling a need or a desire or solving a problem. So if you can find what that pain point is for that individual, or solve then a need or a desire for them.
Yeah.
It's basically tapping into like the emotion inside that human being, and then presenting it in a way which makes them feel like they want it at that period of time.
Yeah.
And that can be across anything that we do, you know, selling watches or water bottles or nightclubs. It doesn't matter. It's about finding that way, and then basically you serve them with pieces of content, whether that's through written, through email marketing, through blogs, or through video, or through paid ads, or through media or magazines, or there's so many different ways that you can reach them. You've got to kind of find out where your audience play, and then go and then play in that space and show them that you've got this solution for this thing that they really want. And that's really kind of the crux of marketing in a 4-on-1, basically breaking it right down. But that's what I managed to work out quite quickly from a young age, which has sort of really helped spur me on, because I see results as what a lot of people think marketing. They're like, let's make a video. They put the video out there. They're like, oh, we didn't do, nothing happened. But what I look at is the journey of like how we put that piece of content out, how much traffic does it drive to this page? How do we convert that person from that page to the sale? It cost us X amount to make that video. We made X amount of sales. So I look at it very much on a results basis. And that's kind of really helped me with up the gains, because I can then put all of those skills that I've learned into growing my own thing. But growing your own thing, weirdly, like when it's somebody else's money, you're like, yeah, we're doing the campaign.
Yeah.
You're doing your own. You're like,
you think twice.
£200, that's a lot. Like, you know, so yeah, it's a different feeling for sure now. But yeah, a lot of fun.
So how did you go from like being a marketing director, which is quite high up? I mean, a lot of people want to be directors, and you know, I'd imagine it was good money, to wanting to start your own hospitality business.
So I job topped aggressively.
Okay.
So basically went from quite carefully would select. So I like mapped out my journey, and I was like, right, okay, in 2 years' time, essentially with a hospitality business, I am good at the beginning of that journey. So like when that brand has just started, or they're launching something new. Once you get a hospitality business going, it becomes quite monotonous and boring and samey. So realistically for me, there was like a 2 to 2.5 year lifespan in my job before I got totally bored of it. Okay. But what I quickly came to realize was that when I move jobs, I get 10 grand more. And then if I go from a bigger corporate to a startup, I can get 20 grand more. And I go from marketing exec to marketing manager, from marketing manager to head of marketing, and then head of marketing might move to another head of marketing, another head of marketing, and then marketing director is your next kind of big jump. So I did that over sort of eight years. Okay. So yeah, just meticulously job topped, went from bigger corporation down to a startup, which can get some more money, make a big difference in a smaller organization. You can then, you know, say, look, I've got these results for all of these different types of venues. And that's kind of how I managed to move up as quickly as I did.
Okay. Mad. And then that, which is exceptional. And I hope people, you know, in your career that focus on your career that you've listened to that, if you want to.
Job hopping's mental. It's the same for anything. And I actively talk about this in my content as well. Like I really do think people should consider that because it's a way of literally moving up the ladder quickly. You don't necessarily have to be massively qualified for the next roll up that you go for. For me, I'm like, if you can do 60% of the job, you can pick up the other 20 to 30% pretty quickly in the first couple of weeks. And then the last 10%, you just kind of hope that they don't know you.
They don't know that you don't know.
yeah, but then if you can do a really good job, like, you know, if you can put your heart and soul into it and you're a good person and you can go for it and get results, like you should challenge yourself. And if it doesn't work out, you've got a preparation period and leave.
Yeah, and then move on to the next company, right? Like, I think you have to just try and be a bit fearless and just be brave and just keep on moving as much as you can, because like you say, you can definitely get the financial rewards, and not just financial, skill reward as well, if you're able to continue doing that. Okay,
100%.
if you're anything like me, you want to grow your money in an automated, low cost and tax-free way. One of the best platforms out there is Trading 212, who are kindly sponsoring this episode. And I'm currently using Trading 212 to build my wealth tax-free by investing my money through a stocks and shares ISA. Why I think Trading 212 is so amazing is that you can start investing with as little as £1, and you have over 13,000 stocks and ETF options to choose from. Trading 212 also pay you a market-leading 5.1% interest per annum on any cash that is uninvested on a daily basis. And when you do invest, there's no commission fee, with only a small 0.15% FX fee where applicable. Even better, you can set and forget your investments by taking advantage of Trading 212's auto invest feature, where you choose what you want to invest into automatically every month. Setting up a Trading 212 account only takes a few steps, and if you click the link of the description of this episode, you'll get a free fractional share worth up to £100. It's free money, so you might as well take advantage of it. I'm not a financial advisor, so please always do your own research before investing. So how did you, hospitality, what was that about? Like, why did you decide to, you're doing well in your career. Why did you end up doing that?
Do it or
why do you end up starting a hospitality business?
Because I got to the point, basically a couple of my friends had done their thing up to a certain point. And one of my friends said, he's got quite a rich uncle. He said that he would put some cash into the business, and then he phoned me up and we had this chat, and he was like, look, you do marketing, I do ops, and the other guy was like shit hot at finance. And so it was like, well, this is a match made in heaven. We've got a potential venue, which was called Amazing Grace in London Bridge, which was a 17th century church, which we turned into a music venue and a restaurant. And it was like, well, like, I'm leaving my job now. Like, let's do this, And so we just jumped in, and then we had an amazing first 4 months, and then COVID hit. And I was like building up the gains on the side. So I was just sort of doing that. And then we came back and we had another good run and another lockdown. And by the end of that sort of second lockdown, that's when I realized I was like, I'm kind of done at that point.
Too tiring.
Yeah. Like when it's your own business, even though I love the two guys I work with, the friction of three kind of individuals working together with quite different viewpoints on how things should be run. In the end, I was just like, I don't want to kind of be bouncing back off two people all the time. And like, I just want to kind of make my own decisions. And I felt like I was ready at that point. I felt like I'd learned everything that I needed to know about like ins and outs of running a business, profit, loss, EBITDA, all of these really important things to actually, if we spend X amount on this, then we get X amount back, and this is how much profit we've got at the end of it. But hospitality is a brutal business, man. Like, you get probably at the end, if you're doing well, 5% profit.
Seriously?
5%. So you could be turning over like multi millions and be taking out 150 grand,
oh my God,
which is just mental.
That's
and
a lot
so
of work for such little profit.
Exactly. Like, obviously you need enormous amounts of labor. You get your product is obviously beer and food. It's perishable in a lot of ways. So you can burn through money, and that's a 5% kind of, if you mess up, that 5% very quickly becomes, and that's why you see restaurants and bars close all the time, because they get that 5% wrong. And so that's why we're seeing pubs and chains all over the country just go tits up, because that's what happens. So brutal amount of work for very little gain at the end of it. Whereas a digital business like mine can do sometimes like 97% net profit margin, because you've made something once in a digital product, and you can sell it multiple amount of times, which completely changed the game for me. Once I was like, this is possible. Wow, I make a ebook and I can sell it for £17, and I could sell it to every single person on this planet, and all I needed was a PDF file sitting on a computer, which just blew my mind.
Crazy, yeah.
And that changed everything for me. So I was like, right, how do I find a time where a model where I can put my efforts in and then get back a lot bigger portion of the pie. And that's what a digital business can do for you.
Yeah, so important. Wow, that's that's so interesting. What type of hospitality business was it actually?
So we run like street food venues and music
street
bars.
food. Okay.
So we basically come in. The model was quite cool. Basically, like you'd have like a bit of land which the council was like waiting for planning permission on, and these things take like 2-3 years, sometimes 5, 6, 7 years to just actually get the planning through.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole like development phase and stuff as well. So sometimes you can get venues for like 5 years plus. So you go in, we turn the whole place into quite a cool like complex. You've all seen them like Street Feast or Mercato Metropolitano, these types of places. That's what they are. So you just create little concept bars, put a load of cool street food traders in there. And then, you can like, people love that kind of chilled outside but inside kind of feel. And we've seen them pop up all over the city now. But yeah, we were kind of really one of the kind of people that turned it into a big thing. So it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And, I've eaten a lot of good food and drunk a lot of good booze, but it's just, it is relentless.
Yeah. Wow, sounds it. Okay. So what was the one experience with money that motivated you to create Up the Gains?
Yeah, I think it's got to be the debt factor. I think for me, I turned up at university. They gave me a overdraft and a credit card.
I got the overdraft too.
Yeah,
I didn't get the credit card though.
Get a credit card,
Nah,
but then
I
I didn't tell one bank that I had the student overdraft. Went into the other one and said, "Oh, would you give me an account?" And they said yes. And that was my first taste of debt. Like I was never taught the value of a pound. Like my mum and dad are good people, but they were also the same. Like they spent everything that they earned, kind of thing. That was just the way that they lived their lives. And so that kind of ingrained into me. So when I was just kind of given my own money and like go out into the world, it was like, I was just like, yes, let's go, and Freshers Week and, a couple of new trainers and clothes and stuff to look good at Freshers Week. Then most of that money was gone. And suddenly I was like, oh, okay, now I realized I had to get a job and start working that off. And luckily, we were running nights and I was like using nights to like fund the weird lifestyle. And that carried on for a long period of time and actually just got worse and worse and worse and more debt and more debt and more debt over a really, really kind of period of sort of about 6 years. Until I had like an aha moment and was like, I need to put a stop to this. So I came back, learned everything there was to know about like getting out of debt and then managed to get myself out in 18 months. But while I was learning, everything I was learning from needed an Oxford dictionary or or was an American. And like, there was no one really other than Martin Lewis in the UK, like actually talking about that. That's since changed a lot. There's a lot of creators out there, great podcasts like this one. And we're luckier now that there is these kind of people that you can lean into, but back then there was no one. So I was like, that was the first kind of like ideas about money being like, there's no one really talking to someone like me, and like it's for the people back then. Martin's amazing, but his audience is very different to the people that me and you speak to, for example. Even your audience versus my audience, like completely different people's, right? So it's just so that kind of step about money, that was the first like light bulb moment for me, and that was kind of sparked my journey. I managed to get myself debt free in 18 months. And it was like blood, sweat and tears, about 24 grand in 18 months, which was like $1,000 and a bit a month. And it was brutal, but
wow,
I managed to get through it, man.
That's crazy. So because that was my next question. That an amazing story, by the way. You're absolutely right. There was not, I think most of us knew about Martin Lewis. He's big, he's huge, he's great at what he does. But I think, like you say, I think he's a little bit different to us. He's now on the gram. He's now on. He's got YouTube.
He's doing
now.
bits
He's
now,
not
yeah.
a boomer like that.
The
He's
videos
on
are
TikTok.
funny, though.
They are funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a boomer type video, but
yeah.
there's still good information. Don't
Yeah,
get
it
me wrong.
is, yeah.
I like Martin Lewis, but
Yeah.
he's still different, right?
Yeah,
Like we've all, like you say, we all got a different
It's not
personalities.
TikToky hook content. It's like, let me tell you
Straight.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's he's being himself, and
totally.
you know that's
there's a place
great,
for
right?
it.
We're all
100%.
ourselves, right? So,
Yeah.
so yeah, talking about that, it was 24 grand in debt. I looked on your page, right? And you talked about a technique that you used to get yourself out of that. Talk to us about that. So I think people would really want to hear about that.
Yeah, so it's actually a Dave Ramsey technique. It's called debt snowball. There's also debt avalanche as well. And essentially all you do is you list your debts from smallest to biggest, or you can flip it on its head, essentially. So you list your debt from smallest to largest. And then what you want to do is you want to basically do a really comprehensive budget.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that bit. Everybody hates budgeting. I totally get it, because like I still to this day hate budgeting, but I still manage to do it. But essentially what you're trying to identify is, like, let's say I can put £300 towards my debt. So your smallest debt is basically what you target with all of your might. But what the trick is that you pay the minimum payments, and you even can phone up some of the creditors and say, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm really trying to work through it. Can you make my minimum payment as small as possible? And some of them will take it right down to £1, and some of them may even give you a little break. The idea is that you can put absolutely everything into that smallest debt. And when you do that, you basically are trying to sort of create quick wins for yourself. So it's about positive loops, creating positive loops around your money. You get that quick win. You're like, yes, wicked, I've paid off my first debt. Then you can move on to your next debt. And what you do is you create this snowball effect, because you're then paying down the debt, and you actually find that you get really into it, basically, and you're like on a mission, like next one. It's just like knocking things off, like knocking the dominoes effect down. And that's what happens. And you can get yourself out of debt a lot quicker when you kind of focus like that. Because you've got a real plan, you're going to go through it, you know where you're at. Now, debt avalanche is a bit different. What you do is you list the amounts of interest that you're paying at the top. So actually you can end up saving more money when you do it like this. But it doesn't have that same like positive loop effect, because that debt could be one of your biggest that you're paying the interest rates on. And yes, technically you should be paying more to that, but it doesn't create the habit. And often if you've got yourself into debt, you're lacking good money habits. So creating good money habits will set you up for a longer period of time. Now, some people like to do a combination of the two, which I actually think is a good thing. So like knock off a few quick wins and then target a big one that you're paying lots of interest on. So that's like a good, a second good way of doing it. So that's what I did. So I quickly realized basically that my salary wasn't going to cut it, and that it was going to take me years basically to clear all that debt. And I was like, nah, I want this done in my head. I was like, I want this done in a year, which was a lot. Right? It's like, nah, that's not
35 grand in a year. That's mad.
But I was like, how can I do that? So shortening that time frame as much as possible. So what I did was I started doing little side hustles, starting little businesses, doing little online businesses, doing freelancing on the side, bringing in a bit of money here and there, and everything just went towards my debt. And then all of a sudden, once you hit that zero, the most important thing is you don't go back. But you'll find that on your debt clearing journey, you will have little moments where you do go slightly backwards. But the period what's pivotal is that you don't fall right back into your old habits. And then often what happens is you end up you get yourself into even a bigger hole, because you get back into this hole like it doesn't exist. And actually the biggest like thing about debt is the first piece is around awareness. Like this is how much I owe. I have to pay it back. And once you accept that you're going to go on that journey, it really does sort of change absolutely everything for you. Because you have to be accepting that you're going to have to do this. And then once you've done that, you can then actually start making a plan about how you're going to do it.
Yeah, I love that. And I completely agree. You know, with debt, and you said something really key, it's like those small wins are so important, because I feel like it gives you confidence, gives you a bit of a relief. Yeah, it's a bit of a journey. At the same time, as long as you're able to pay back something, I think it's okay. Pay it back in your own time as well, right? So I think that's quite important. You know, one of the few things that we wanted to definitely talk about today, there's a few areas we wanted to talk about today. So financial freedom number, right? We've never really spoken about that on the podcast before, so I'm very interested in getting involved in that. What is a financial freedom number, and how can people kind of figure out what that is?
Yeah, so it will differ for absolutely everyone, but there are different types of financial freedom for different people. What the easiest way of working out your financial freedom number is basically take your yearly income right now and times it by 25, and that's the simplest way of doing it. So that'll give you a figure, and what that figure basically means is that you can then comfortably withdraw at least 4% a year from that figure, and your money won't decrease, or it won't decrease down to zero at any point. It should actually also, if it's invested in the right places, still continue to go up. So you're comfortable at that point. That's where you have no stress. Basically, I see it like you've got 25 years of like you living your life the way you want to live it. That you can stretch that out for a long period of time as well. You could stretch that out over 40, 50, 60 years. So if you hit that number, you can early retire. I don't believe in early retirement at all.
Yeah, I think more and more people on the podcast have been saying that. You don't believe in early retirement.
Nah. I feel like you should find your purpose and go for it. And we'll 100% talk about that, I'm sure. But for me, I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm playing Xbox when I'm doing my business. That's like the way I feel. I have that same like 14-year-old kid vibe when I'm doing this. Like, and that's what I think everyone should be tapping into. And yeah, like, so financial freedom, you can obviously inflate that. So for example, you say, oh, look, I'm earning 20 grand a year. I don't want to live a 20 grand a year lifestyle. I want to live a 40 grand a year lifestyle. Well, you take 40 grand and you times that by 25, and that's your financial freedom number. And you can work towards that. Now, there are different ways that people do financial freedom. It's called the FIRE movement. You have different types of FIRE, essentially. And some of them are way more aggressive than others, from literally sitting in a dark room eating chickpeas to like...
Yeah, we ain't doing that on the podcast.
So, yeah. So,
I'm not living my life 40 years eating chickpeas.
Bro.
Like, no way.
Nah, it's not happening, is it? Like, that's what I mean. But there are people out there that like they will do that for 10 years and then that's it for them. They don't, and then their life's sorted. So they just 90% of their income goes to that. They live in a hostel, eat barely anything, like noodles every day, and they just do that for 10 years. It's sad, right? It is
very sad.
It is very, very sad. Like, but they are the people that are like 10 years and then I can do whatever, right? I don't agree with that at all. And there's people sit on the other side where your financial freedom number can be a lot lower than that yearly income times 25, because they're happy to still do part-time work and things like that, right? So you can have a lot lower than that times 25 as well, and that's called barista fire. So there's another type. I sit kind of right in the middle, which is enjoy my life and also save and invest.
Yeah.
Move forward towards a goal, with the ultimate goal being financial freedom. But I'm still enjoying myself. I'm still going on holidays. I'm still buying myself the things I want. I'm just making sure that I've budgeted for these things and I'm not like taking the mick with my own finances, basically.
Yeah. No, I love that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, look, more power to people if they feel like they've got the heart to live a really stringent life. More power to them, kudos to them. I don't think everybody's journey is like different. But I think that personally, from my point of view, I feel like depriving yourself for such a long time. What's to say that after 10 years, you're going to just enjoy it? Because it's not that easy. I feel like people really like kind of downplay, like putting yourself into a mindset and then switching off. I don't think it's that easy to just be like, okay, I'm going to do this for 10 years. When I've now got millions, I'm just going to now spend. It's not that easy. It's definitely not.
No.
Me being a saver and investor, I know that it's not that easy.
Yeah.
And I'm not even like strict like that. I know how tough it is to spend money, because it's always this opportunity cost in your head. Oh, well, actually, I could save it, or I can invest it, and So,
and then later I can buy it back again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
you have to play the kind of balance card with that. Like I just have a rule now. Like if it's above £100, 24 hours, I've got to wait 24 hours. There's no like negotiation about that. If I wait, And 95% of the time, I don't want the thing, because we are like, as a society now, probably by the time I sat down in this chair, I was fed about 10,000 adverts from a multitude of different devices and billboards and all of these things, you know, tubes, etc. Buy. And, you know, if marketers are extremely talented people out there, they know what they're doing. They're pressing your buttons, so you pull the trigger. But and especially online, you know, we've all done it. Instagram ad, wow, I need that now. And it's, you know, 150 quid. A lot of people will go through that process and buy it. And then it will turn up and they're like, oh, that's cool. And, you know, how many garages have you seen filled with tech that nobody uses, right? Yeah. These are the things that you didn't really necessarily need. It's not going to alter your life that much. So that 24 hours can make a massive, massive difference. And usually my decision is like, no, I'm just going to actually work out my stock shares ISA. So that can really, really help, like, stop that kind of impulse spending, especially when you're like in debt, knowing your triggers. Like I know that I used to go out on a Saturday night and at, you know, 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning when I'm feeling a little bit worse for wear, I'd buy myself some trainers. And that was like my thing. And then once I worked that out about myself, I'm like, no, like, wait. And then if you still want them on Monday morning. And the second part of this is, can you afford it twice over in cash? And if the answer is no, you haven't got that money spare sitting there to then afford the thing, then you can't afford the thing.
Exactly.
So don't buy the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And with financial freedom as well, the number is important to try and keep your expenses as low as possible. I think, you know, it's worth stressing that expenses is what eats into whatever we do, right? Like the low, and again, I'm not saying like the beans on toast thing. That's not what I mean. By the way, I mean like paid off mortgages, not having a huge amount of debt and stuff like that by the time you reach like your financial freedom number. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about, you know, setting up a side hustle, because what we want to kind of get to is we want people to be able to develop surplus income, use their 9-to-5 surplus income, and then save and invest that, because I think that's how you kind of work towards it, right? So a good second income, of course, as we said, is a side hustle. But what is actually a side hustle? Because when we were speaking about it, you said that there was a difference between a side hustle and a side business. How do you kind of differentiate those two?
So like following on from that financial freedom conversation, I have like, you need to then decide how much you're going to be able to contribute to get to that goal. And the difference between this is that, like, some people say, oh, it's £500, but for you to actually reach your financial freedom goal, you're going to need to save and invest £800. So that's a significant gap, right? So you've got like a £300 gap. And this is where side hustles come in. Now, side hustles and side hustle businesses are very, very different things. So side hustles are things like online surveys or things that you do one-off. You send your mate a referral code, he gets 20 quid, you get 20 quid. That's a side hustle. A side hustle business is something you're actively working on to grow, to bring in large amounts of income over the time. It also doesn't have to be large amounts of income. You could have an online bakery business which does £300 a month. That's great, but that's a business which needs active works. A little side hustle for me is like a one-off transaction that's done, give me the money, and then move on to the next thing. So I feel like people get that kind of term mixed up quite a bit. And it can be confusing because they're like, well, like, am I starting a side hustle or am I starting a business? And for me, it's like, well, no, just go and do some side hustles, and then you could have a side hustle business as well that's running, because it's a very different thing. So when you identify the gap, this is something I'm talking about quite a lot at the moment. So the gap is basically your financial freedom number. You need to, let's say, I've got to invest £1,000 for me to hit it in the time frame that I want it. So jump onto the internet, go on a compound interest calculator, put the numbers in, and you'll work out, I need to invest this amount to make it in the time frame that I want it to. I can contribute £500 to my income. I have a £500 gap. So now I need to go out and make a £500 extra a month. The thing is, what's different about this is if you look on YouTube and every side hustle guy on the internet right now, it's like, make 10 grand a month, make 150 grand a month from copywriting or VAs or, you know, all of these types of things, and Amazon FBA, and that's very overwhelming for the everyday person. But even if I shorten that gap and I said to you that the gap is only £200, if I say to you, Atta, you got to go out and make £200 next month, you kind of go, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Even £300, you'd probably be like, yeah, I could probably find a way of doing that. And then even if you increase that up to 500 quid, I'm pretty much sure every single person in this podcast, I was going to say in this room, there's no one in it.
There's only us
It's
two.
Yeah, we could do it.
Yeah.
but everyone listening to this podcast could probably do 500 quid. It's doable. It might take a bit more brain power and it might take you a little length of time to get yourself up to that point, but you could probably do 500 quid. And then suddenly you've got your gap. And as long as you don't change anything about your life, you're not having that lifestyle inflation creep in. Like, oh, I've just made 500 quid. Like, let's book those flights. Like, let's buy those trainers with that profit. You invest that profit, and then that's what then turns a small amount of money from your income and your side hustle into an absolute fortune, because you're then got that regular amount of money going into the stock market, into say a property business later down the line when you've built it up. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it, but identifying the gap and then saying, I only need to go out and make £150 this month to reach my goal, my gap, so I can put that extra money into my stocks and shares ISA and then get myself to my financial freedom number a lot faster.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm just gonna take us back a bit, so we make it super clear for the watchers and listeners, right? So obviously, we've identified our financial freedom number, right?
Yeah.
So we're basing it on income and not expenses. And I know you can do it on income or expenses, whatever you want to kind of do. But let's say we do it on income. Let's keep it simple number. This is not even that mad realistic. But let's say it's like 100,000 to be financially free. We need to hit 100,000 and divided by 25. What's that? A massive thingy. 4,000. Yeah. 4,000 times 25 is 100K, right? So you've identified your financial freedom number. Say it's like 100,000, right? That's your financial freedom number. And say you want to get to that in 10 years, you'd go on like a compound calculator. So step one, identify your financial freedom number. You times it by your income by 25. And then you then go into a compound calculator, which there's like several websites. You just Google it and you'll come up with one, right? And then what you then need to understand is, okay, if you want to get to 100K in 10 years, like how much do you need to kind of put away or invest?
Exactly.
In 10 years, right?
Exactly.
And you could do the compound calculator, right?
It's not going to be 10 grand. It's going to be less, because your money's going to grow with interest and gains on it.
And the compound calculator, you can put you can put how much, you can keep trying different things to see how you can get to that in 10 years, right? Because I guess the stock market, I think we spoke about it a lot on the podcast, but typically, what is it? They range 7 to 10%.
Well, technically
roughly.
It's 10.51%.
Yeah.
If you look at the US stock market over the past, 100 plus years, that's what you're going to be getting at pretty much any 10 to 10 year period. But I always err on the side of caution with these types of things. So I completely agree with you. Like putting 7 or 8% in there for me is kind of what I would always base my calculations off. And if you get a better return, you get there faster. Just happy days. But then I always err on the side of caution. Everything with financing you do, like that's really important. But so you basically hop on in there, you put £150 in, 8%, 10 years. What's that turn up as? Oh, okay, we're short. So I need £350, 8%, 10 years. Oh, okay, we're closer. Or you may even get there. So like, that's what you do. And then you go, well, out of my budget, I'm earning £2,000 a month. I can contribute 10% of my budget to this. So that's my £200. And then, okay, I've got a gap of £150 because I need to put £350 in. And now I need to go out and find a way of increasing my income. This is the other side of it. You could increase your income. You don't have to do a side hustle. You could job hop. You could look at chatting to your boss. So I read a stat. So basically 64% of this country have never asked for a pay rise, ever, not once.
That's crazy.
So if you're just having that conversation, the reason why I think that conversation is so important is, well, the reason why I think asking your boss for a pay rise is so important is that you can basically understand very quickly your value within that company. Because either they'll say yes, they'll say, if you do X, Y, and Z in 6 months' time, we'll review it. Which is, again, a good outcome. because you now know if I do these three things, they're going to give me the money, or they say no, and then you go, right, well, I've got a decision to make now. Then what I would do in that situation, look at your value, like what are they paying elsewhere for your exact same role? And if they're being paid 5-10 grand, you can have that conversation very confidently with your boss, because it's industry average. So you don't have to start a side hustle. You could increase your income. You could do both. You could exponentially, you could grow it. If you, let's say you manage to get to the £500 a month, you only need £350. That's then playing on your compound interest calculator, and it's bringing it even down even further. So, and you're getting there a lot faster. So that's what I would encourage people to do, because identifying the gap of where you're at and where you need to get to just gives you that drive and that motivation. And it's not as big as the like, I need to replace my job income or make 10 grand a month. It doesn't have to be that big to still reach your goals, and you can still live your life like a normal person.
Yeah, no, it's very important. You're right. You're absolutely right, because there's no point saying you need to make 10 grand a month if that's not relevant to you.
It's just what everyone says.
Exactly.
So everyone goes, oh, I want to do 10K.
Yeah,
but it doesn't actually need to be that way.
Yeah.
And not also a lot of people listening to this just don't want to. Like, 10K a month, it'd be nice,
That's
right?
nice, but
it'd
it's
be
not,
nice, but it's not.
Yeah.
And it's also not realistic for everyone as well. Like, other than bending over backwards or breaking your back to actually get there. It's more than possible, by the way. I'll just be frankly honest. Like, it's very much possible, but it's not what everybody wants to do. They want to go home and spend time with their kids. They don't want to be sitting on the laptop till 2-3 a.m. and they want to be doing their thing, and they want to chill out in the evenings, and they totally get that, and they just want to do their job and they want to go home. So identify the gap, go for the gap, and that's how you're going to get to your financial freedom number a lot faster.
And that's the important thing, and that's what I wanted to really highlight, especially where you're talking about side hustles and side businesses. Doesn't need to generate a lot, it needs to generate hundreds, and you was very adamant about that. And I think that is a very important message to share with people. You don't have to have a goal, like you say, of I need to make 10,000 or 5,000, even 1,000. Like you said, the gap could maybe you're saving 200, like you say, maybe you only need another 200 from your side hustle. Maybe that's enough for you. You need to do enough work to do that. 200-300, right? Which is still,
that's a start, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's still useful. It's still useful. And I think a lot of people may sometimes turn their nose at that, because actually extra £200 a month actually over a year is 2,400. Over 10 years, that's 24K. So it's not as small as you think about it. In 5 years, that's 12, right? So it's not as insignificant as people make it. All these things add up at the end of the day, right? And if you add like compound interest, is even more. So
exactly.
Yeah, it's very important, and I wanted to definitely like highlight it. Can you provide a few examples, because people have been asking me that. I told we want some tangible examples. These are examples, and I just want to give people examples to stir ideas. But again, I know that you have a process for how people can identify that, which we'll talk to after. But just to obviously also contextualize it for people, are there examples that you can provide of side hustles, side businesses that where people can generate income?
Yeah, so one of my favorites is trainer reselling. It's a really cool way of monetizing something. I feel like it's a bit of a loophole at the moment. Let's say these pair of Nikes that I'm wearing right now, if they get released on the website, they get sold for say £100, right, on the Nike website on the day that they come out. If they're rare enough type of shoe, they sell out within 24 hours, sometimes within half an hour. If you're hot on the button, you can buy that shoe and it gets delivered to your house, and then you can list it on StockX or eBay. And often these, if you've picked the right shoes, there's a little bit of research involved in this, but it's not that difficult. You can sometimes double, triple, or even quadruple your money. And sometimes I've bought shoes for £100 and sold them for thousands of pounds. So it's more than possible, and it's really easy. There's an app out there called Heat Movement. And essentially what you can do is you can track trainer drops when they're going to drop on the Nike or the Adidas website. And you can set alarms that go off on your phone so they can remind you. You buy those shoes. I always buy like size 9, size 10. They're kind of like standard. They go the fastest. And then you just wait for them to sell out, and then you do the listing. That's a really easy side hustle. And that is still a side hustle because it's a one time thing.
Yeah.
You can just do it multiple times over. So for me, that's a really good way of making money. And on a good month, I was doing £500, £600, £700. You know, I've had some months where shoes have gone for thousands, and you're like, amazing. You know, we had Travis Scott Nike collab, which was just nuts. Like, we managed to get in there. And as well, you can enter things like raffles for the shoes where there's only like 50 pairs in the world and stuff like that. And that's just a really good one. Second one is a lot more easier for people. It's just online surveys. They're so easy, and you could be sitting there on Netflix with your laptop on and just pressing yes and no on multiple choice questions, and you get £2-3, sometimes £5-6 for the survey. It takes you, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 minutes. You're still watching Netflix. You're just like doing little bits and bobs, or on your lunch break or on your commute. You can monetize your commute, which I think is a massive one. And you can just make him a little bit of money. And yeah, it's £2 here, £3 there, but your account soon picks up. And remember, we were talking about that gap. You only need to make 150 quid. That's like a couple of days of you doing a few surveys, like maybe a week or two of doing a few surveys, but you're sorted. Another one is website testing. So there's lots of really great websites on there. A simple Google will bring some up for you. Website testing is really cool. Again, you can earn anywhere from a tenner or up to sort of 50-60 quid. And then focus groups. Focus groups are wicked, man. Focus groups, I've been to loads. Like, there's some online and some in person. So obviously the online ones are suitable for people that like perhaps live in the sticks that are listening to this or something like that. But if you're in the city, most cities will do certain focus groups. It's just brands basically launching products or a service, and you go and you give feedback in an open forum. And you can get anywhere from 50 to 150 quid. I've had ones where they're the whole day and they're hundreds of pounds. So it's just about being smart and looking out there for the right opportunities. And, you know, these things come along. Sometimes you get a big payday. Sometimes it's a little bit harder and you don't make anything for a few weeks. But if you look for the solution will appear. I'm a big fan of that. And there's a few side hustles there which people can go and start like today, and you can be making money with online surveys within under half an hour from now. You could be doing your first one.
There's not a lot of like lead time or like skills that you need to develop to do that, to start generating something, right? But let's say somebody wants to go from like side hustles to side business where they're generating more money. You've got a process of how people can identify that. Can you talk a little bit more?
Yeah, so 100%. So it's called Ikigai, and Ikigai is essentially your purpose in life. Now, if you identify Ikigai, the reason why it's so good is because it not only caters to what you're good at and what you love, it's also what you can be paid for. So there's 4 circles of Ikigai, and they interconnect, leading you with your purpose. Now, people might be like, "Ooh, that's a bit woo-woo," but it does work. So you start off by listing all the things that you're good at, and then basically you make another list next to it of all the things that you love. And what you do is you draw lines in between. So you go through all of the things you're good at and you match them to the things that you love. Like, how do they connect? And you'll start to see little things like, oh, okay, I like doing this and I'm really good at these things. And actually this thing I love connects to like 4 skills that I have, which are really good. So that could be really cool. So, you know, it could be like, you know, I really love football and I'm good at public speaking, for example. So coaching might be the one that you come out with from that. So you see where I'm going with that. You kind of identify the strand. Then once you've done that, you start to look at the areas that you could be paid for that skill. So you love it, you're good at it. And now how can I be paid for it? And you're trying to identify the right skill, which you could be paid for, which you're going to enjoy. And then the last thing is what the world needs. So where's the gap within that? And that's how you identify a really good business. So you're good at it. You know you can be paid for it. You've identified the skills for coaching. It could be football coaching. I could do coaching online and coaching, you know, so many different aspects of this. And then what the world needs. So there's a gap in my local town. There's a gap in my market, my continent, my country, the world, that whatever that is, there's a gap for this thing. Or this, if I niche it down into this section, no one's really doing this round here. And I could then go and do that. Exactly how we were talking about earlier when we was talking about Up the Gains. Everyone was American or it was very difficult. So the gap was, I'm British, I'm just like you, and I can deliver this in a way that's really easy to understand.
Yeah.
So that was my gap. So I went out and found that, and I pushed the button on that gap, and it was what I loved. I was good at it, and I knew I could get paid for it by monetizing those two things.
Yeah.
And that was the gap. And then that's your purpose in life. So then once you've identified that, you've got a pretty good baseline idea for a business.
Mm-hmm.
And then really from that point on, it's about formulating a plan of action. So remember we were talking about earlier with the marketing thing, what problems or needs or desires can I solve for people in this space?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I go about attracting the right people into that?
Yeah.
And suddenly you can build pretty powerful businesses out of that. And that could literally be, I like making cakes, and no one makes wedding cakes round here, or no one does like drops of wedding cakes directly to the things. It doesn't have to be Elon Musk's Tesla. Do you know what I mean?
We all need to be billionaires.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that. It can just, what you're identifying is something that you're just going to get up in the morning and love it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to make you some money,
Mm-hmm.
and you're pretty good at it, or you can get good at it. That's another thing about this as well. Like if you don't have the skills there yet, but you know you love it, you can upskill yourself before you end up making money. And that's totally cool too. You know, right, I'm going to take a couple of courses on this so I get good at this because I really love it.
Yeah.
And that's really what you're trying to identify in yourself. And when you can do that, man, like the world is your oyster. So I really encourage everybody to do that. It doesn't also have to be about creating businesses. It can be about like, I want to identify this type of career for me as an individual because I don't want to create a business, and that's totally cool. So you could just decide, look, I'm currently in customer service and I really want to be learning about electric vehicles.
Yeah.
So how do I then go and then get myself into that? And then essentially you just map out the journey, whether that's for a business or a career. How are you going to bridge that gap to get yourself to that end goal?
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love Ikigai. People definitely make sure to, follow that, because I think it's so cool. So obviously, like moving back to in terms of like side hustle, let's say somebody's now, they're generating a bit of more income, and it could be in any way. They've done it through 9-to-5 job hopping, maybe promotion, maybe asking for more, maybe side hustle, maybe side business, right? Before you start investing though, I personally think it's a good idea to get into the habit of saving your money first, right? So is there like a let's say a general amount people should start thinking about saving? Let's say first.
Yeah. For me, like everyone says 3 to 6 months of expenses for an emergency fund. So I basically see steps of wealth like this really, really simply. Like, if you're in debt, get rid of your debt. While you're doing that, increase your income. And once you're at net zero, call it zero, you've got yourself out of debt. It's about not going backwards. So there's a securing phase. So securing phase is like, if someone drove into my wall or my boss turned up to the job tomorrow and says, you're fired, I'm not like up shit's creek without a paddle, basically. I have the money, the funds there to be able to secure myself for a number of months. Now, people say of your income, 3 to 6 months. I don't think it needs to be that. I think it has to be of living expenses, your lowest form of living expenses. So an emergency fund for me, 3 months of if I cut out like all of the rubbish that I do on a daily basis, or buy my Costa coffees and those types of things. If I just lived and paid my bills enough to like support my, I want to be able to eat and not have to like live off noodles, like, live in a dark room. But like, what is that realistic number? And then save that, start with the first £500, then save the first £1,000, break these goals down. Because looking up at going, I need to save 10 grand, that again is quite overwhelming for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you just want to break that down. Start with, okay, I need to save my first £500. Quick wins, right? Positive loops. It's all the same. Even when you're working up to hundreds and millions, it should still be about goals and positive loops, but just always break them down. So start there, get yourself up to that number. And once you're at that number, then you just basically need to identify some short-term savings goals. So I have a rule. It's called the 5-year rule. Now, if I was to say basically, Atto, I'm going to save £100 this month.
Yeah.
With the 5-year rule, any money that I may need for the next 5 years or less, that money is saved. So I might need it for something. And that could be holidays, a new house, or my first home, or whatever that might well be. I save that money into high interest savings accounts. And any money I'm happy to contribute to the 5 years plus me, that money is then invested.
Yeah. Okay,
So we've secured ourselves. Now we've got ourselves to this point. And that's why saving and investing in tandem is very, very important.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have short-term savings goals, like things like holidays, you know, tires for the car insurance, all of these types of things you're going to have to like pay for. So you save for them. So you're not taking a big financial hit every time these things come around. And they're your short-term savings goals. And you're doing that in tandem with investing at the same time by using the 5-year rule. Yeah. So that could be, for you might say, I'm 50-50. But for another person, that might be like, I really want to buy a house like in 3 years. So it's 90-10 for me. So I'm 90 towards savings and 10% towards my investments. Yeah. You still want to make sure both things are moving at all times. So it's really, for me, shouldn't be any more than 90-10. And
90-10 on which one? 90
to savings.
90 to saving and 10 to investing. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason being is you don't want to take risk with that money that's 5 years or less.
Okay.
So like that's in that high interest savings account. So if you're looking to buy a house in 4 years time, you don't want that money in the stock market. Yeah. You just want it in a savings account or a lifetime ISA, which is where moving forwards for you. And just by doing that, you then find yourself moving towards multiple goals at once. So for me, having a 1-year goal, a 5-year goal, and your ultimate goal, which is your financial freedom number that we spoke about earlier, and how am I going to get towards those all at the same time? So
love that.
Yeah.
And one of the things you can definitely use as well, and I think one of the first accounts I started to learn about cash ISA. This was I'm talking years ago, not now, right? So you can save in that, and that's quite a good vehicle or a good account because essentially you're not getting taxed on your savings. I know with savings accounts there's a threshold. I'm not going to get into technicalities of that, but let's just say with a cash ISA you can, and that kind of rolls over forever, right? So what is actually a cash ISA? Can you explain that for people? I don't think I've really spoken about what a cash ISA is, because I want to get people to understand what's the difference between that and a stocks and shares ISA.
Okay, cool. So a cash ISA is literally a savings account. People will think it's a lot more than that, and often people get confused that an ISA is stocks and shares and savings in one. Exactly. So it's not, it's very separate. So if you just see a cash ISA literally like a savings account, there's nothing different about it other than the fact that every single bit of money that you save and every single bit of interest that you get from that is tax-free. Now you can put up to £20,000 across all of your different types of ISAs every single tax year. And a lot of people also get confused with the fact that they say that if I put 20 grand in, I can't get any more than that in interest this year, and because it's going to go over the 20 grand. That's not the case. What it actually means is it's the contribution that goes in. So if your money grows above that £20,000 in that tax year, I know it's, few and far between will be able to put that type of money in, but I do get that question quite a bit. So it's just literally a savings account that you don't have to pay tax on. That's all it is.
I just wanted to make that clear because I do get people asking me as well about it, and it's confusing. And I think it's because the name, the ISA, actually it stands for individual saving account.
Right.
I know, but they say cash ISA, so it makes it seem different. I remember the first time I started learning about this stuff, I was like, what is this stuff? They're all just types of accounts. That's all it is. It's nothing more complicated than that. That's what they are, right?
100%.
And like you said, the stocks and shares version is just an investment account, but it's tax-free version of the investment account. Right?
Exactly right. Yeah. So it you used to get like broker accounts, and then they made the stocks and shares ISA, which is the tax-free version of a broker account. And the cash ISA is the tax-free version of the savings account. So when you invest, you get something called capital gains tax on a broker account if you go above a certain threshold. And if you save into a normal savings account, you get personal savings allowance which once you go above that, you then are required to pay tax on the
Exactly.
interest of your savings.
Yeah.
So you put your money inside the ISA and you can forget about all
You
of
don't
that.
have to worry about that. Oh, do I need to pay the tax man?
Yeah,
There's no,
do I need
no
to do a
worries.
self-assessment and all
Exactly.
of this type of stuff?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
It's now your money. And the beauty of that is you can grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it. And when you want it, you take it out.
Yeah.
It's not locked up. People think that, like, oh, I can't put my money in an ISA. I'm never really better get it in, or I can't get it out when I want to get it out. You can get your money out.
Yeah, all of them you can take them out. This is
Yeah.
what's great. Like, they're so flexible.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people don't
extremely
think
flexible.
that you.
And there are
you
different
can't.
types of cash
Yeah.
ISAs as well. Like, you can have fixed cash ISAs, so you can get yourself a little bit of a higher interest rate on them as well. There are noticed ones as well.
Yeah.
So there are different types of cash ISAs. But yeah, the standard everyday cash ISA is literally a savings account.
I love that. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about investing. Now that we
Yes.
talked about saving, right? So obviously now people are, getting into the habit of saving if it's something that they need it for, obviously emergency fund, and something when they need it for less than 5 years. But now over 5 years, of course, we've got like investing to help you accelerate. I guess, why should people invest? What are like the pros and cons of like, investing?
I find it hard to have cons if you have unless you have a very short-term mentality.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So when it comes to investing, the first thing is you need to start thinking in decades rather than years. And if you think in decades, then you are immediately lowering your risk, because investing does come with risk. There is no denying that.
Yeah.
But the longer you invest for, studies have been shown, there was a study done by Schroders, that if you invest for 20 years or more, you have a 0.1% chance of losing money. I'm taking that chance 247,365, 0.1%. And if it's 10 years, it's 2.6%. So I'm still taking, 90, oh God, my maths has gone, 97+% more. I'm taking that every day of the week as well. Now, the stock market in the US has returned 10.51% on average for a long period of time, the S&P 500. The reason why people get confused about investing is that they think they need to be checking stock charts. They think they need to be researching, reading financial reports. The everyday person like you and me can now set up a broker, stocks and shares ISA account, put £1 in as well, the lowest amount you can be possibly put in into some of these types of accounts. The one I use is £10, and that's really not a lot of money. You can open that up, and then you can invest into something like an index fund. Now, index funds are amazing. They're essentially just lists of stocks. People get confused of what they are, but the beauty of them is you own the largest businesses within that particular region, or sometimes even the world. So I own something called the Vanguard Global Index, which is 7,177 companies from all over the world. So my money's massively diversified. And the beauty of these indexes is something like the S&P 500, for example, which is the 500 largest companies in the USA. If the company that's 501st does better than the company that's sitting 500, it then replaces that. So you always own the best businesses, and then you're actually just benefiting from the overall performance of all of these businesses, rather than having to pick Amazon or pick the next Apple that's going to come springing out of the ground and worry about all of these things. And so I see investing like chocolate. So chocolate, you have a Mars bar, and that's your single bar of, Mars bar is Apple stock in this example, and a fund is like a box of celebrations. So you if one of those chocolates goes bad, it's usually balanced out by ones that aren't. So that's a really good analogy for a beginner, really, to understand. And you could just buy an index fund every single month and go about your merry way. And you can also set it up and automate it, so it just comes out your account like clockwork, and you don't have to think about it. You can check it 3-4 times a year. And what I think people don't realize with the investing is that they're already an investor in their pension.
Yeah, exactly.
But when it comes to their own money, they freak out a little bit. But you could just follow the exact same model and just put money into a fund each month and go enjoy yourself, man. Like,
exactly.
Go
you
to
can
that
just relax. It's not too. It's not so complicated. And actually, let's actually like break down these steps, right, and talk about how somebody can start like investing today, right?
Yeah.
So okay, let's talk about what would step one be for that person that, let's say they're saving their money in a cash ISA, and now they're ready to start investing. What's that first step for them?
Yeah. So I step one, identify yourself a good stocks and shares ISA. The things you need to look out for are the fees on that account.
Yeah.
Fees are massively important because even a 0.1% higher fees over a long period of time ends up being thousands, if not tens of thousands of pounds that you're paying in fees. It's just the way that fees work out. So definitely find a low cost provider that has. The second thing is that it has a large access to the things that you want. So that would be, you know, the index funds that I was talking about before, or perhaps you want to do index funds and pick yourself a few individual companies as well. So you want to find the one that's right for you. The third thing is that it's beginner friendly. And the fourth thing is that it's secure. So is it FCA regulated? Does it have FSCS protection? If it ticks all of those boxes, that's your stocks and shares ISA. Yeah. The beauty of this now is that you can have multiple stocks and shares ISAs in a tax year.
You used to not be able to.
Exactly.
Now you can, which is amazing.
So it's great because you can kind of take advantage of their welcome bonuses and these types of things, and also just shop around. So you could put just like 20 quid in, and I'm just going to kind of see whether I like it.
Yeah.
And you're not like dumping thousands of pounds in it. I'm just going to put a little bit in. Do I like this provider? You know, is it offering me the right things? Do I understand it? And then like, okay, this one's for me, or this one's not for me. I'm going to go and try this one. And you've kind of not lost anything. Yeah. And that rule change really switched it for everyone now, because they can actually go out and shop around and see whether or not they like it. So yeah, that's your first step, is get that set up. And then you want to sort of spend a little bit of time identifying your tolerance to risk. Like, who are you as an individual? If I gave you £100 today and tomorrow the stock market dropped by 10%, how does that make you feel? If it fills you with dread, you're like, I can't deal with that, man. Then you need to go with lower risk investments, such as like bonds or like a global index, for example. If you're like, I don't care, I'm thinking about it long term, like, you know, I'm happy with riding out the waves, man, you know, I'm for this, then you are more, you can stomach more risk. You're more of an adventurous investor. Now, people will usually say to me, oh yeah, I'm definitely an adventurous man.
No, they're not.
And you wait.
Exactly.
I just think you watch that stock market, because it will go down. The stock market goes up and down in a very short period of time, and you know, it can drop fast and
very fast.
Yeah, it's scary when you've got, like, for me, I've now got 6 figures in my stocks and shares ISA, and I log in and it's down, you know, 10, 12 grand in 24 hours. That's scary. Yeah. But you just have to numb yourself to that, and I do now because I've experienced it multiple times, and so I'm totally fine with that.
It comes with the game.
Yeah, and actually I see that as Christmas now, so I see that as like, I'm like 10% down. Woo! Let's put some more money in.
Put more money in.
Yeah, so it becomes an opportunity, because it basically, if you look at it like at your, if say, you know, you bought a fund and it drops by 10%, it's still the same fund. It's like your favorite coat, but it now just you got given a 10% discount code. You're like, sweet. See, that's how I see it, because I'm thinking in decades, remember, and not in days and years, right? So is it going to pan out for me over decades? I'm taking the chances that it will, because I'm betting on human progress. I know Andrew Craig talks about that quite a bit with you, and I'm a big fan of his. So that's your step. You need to identify your risk, like, who are you as an individual, and then you need to make yourself kind of a plan that you can stick to at least for a few months. And usually the best thing to do is pick a couple of funds and get yourself going, you know, like an S&P 500 tracker or a global index, for example. They're just two good things to just get started with. And often people just do that for their whole lives, and they go about their merry way. And you don't have to do anything more than that. And I think that's what's really important to tell people as well. But you can also get stocks and shares ISAs that do this for you. So you have like expert managed ISAs where you can speak to a human, and you have robo advisors where there's an algorithm and a little bit of AI involved to ask you a bunch of questions and then pick a portfolio for you based on the answers that you give to those questions. One of them being your risk tolerance. So there is support there, or you can go out as a lone wolf, as a DIY investor, and do it all yourself. So, but that's your really kind of your pathway. And then if you really want to get into the technical weeds, you can later down the line, but get yourself started like that.
That's what I would say. Start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it.
Yeah.
And then I put in place a bit more of a complicated strategy off the back of that to try and boost my returns over the long term by trying to find the next Amazons and the next Apples, because I enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
But if you don't enjoy doing that and you just want to, you know, go out with your mates instead, then, you know, still put the money in it and just let it do its thing.
Yeah. So how did you build your six figures? Was it that strategy that you did? Like just index funds consistently every month? And over what time period did you do to get to the six figures?
Yeah. So I did a video. It just dropped on my YouTube channel yesterday, actually. It was,
go and watch it, people.
Thank
Definitely
you.
go watch
Up
that.
the Gains Money, you know. So yeah, jump on there, have a look at that. I talk about it in detail, but we can go through the basics of it now. Is I use a strategy called the 80-20 strategy. You see 80-20 in loads of different things, you know, 20% of your effort gives you 8% of your results. And actually I take that same mentality into investing. So what I do is essentially I see my index funds as kind of my like passive, easy, that just happens like clockwork. And I'll talk about, actually let's talk about that first. So what I do is, let's say I put £1,000 into my stocks and shares ISA, or £100, just to keep it simple, £100. And it's the first of the month today, and then the next month I go to put that money in. I literally look at that index fund and whether it's gone up in value or down in value that month. If it's gone down in value, I put more money in. So I might put £120 into that index fund, for example.
Yeah.
And if it's gone down, if it's gone up, I'll put £80. So basically what I'm doing there is that over time, I'm buying it for cheaper. So your average price comes down a little bit. So that's a little bit more technical way of doing it, but it's not that difficult to do. You just literally look at it and go, month, oh, it went down. I'm going to put a bit more in this month. And if you see it's gone up and you've put that £100 in, you only put £80 in, you just leave the £20 as cash. And I leave a little bit back in cash for opportunities, because halfway through the month, it might decide to tank a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, well, it's just come lower than it has for quite a while. Probably going to put a bit more money in again, because I'm thinking in decades.
I like that. Yeah.
So that's a little strategy how you can buy lower over a long period of time. And then with the 20%, this is where I have my individual stock picks, and then I do have a tiny little bit of cryptocurrency as well. So my cryptocurrency never goes above 5%, because that's my personal risk tolerance with it. Like I know that I don't, like I'm happier, I'm okay to make a sort of high risk speculative bet with 5%. And then, I pick individual stocks with that 20%, and I just kind of always keep within those limits. So if one of those stocks decides to fly up, like, you know, we did Nvidia, and it was like 1,000%, and it was suddenly starting to mean that my 20% was now like 27%. Well, I'm going to sell that stock down to keep it in line, or I may sell another one because I feel like that's going to carry on exploding, for example. So it's just a strategy, and it's allowed me to kind of help my returns, my average returns, be a little bit higher each year. And, you know, it does take a lot more work, but it doesn't take that much more work. Like I learned all of that in 6 months, you know, so you can do it as well. It's just, it does require a bit more research in it and keeping an eye on things.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tolerance.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And look, I'll be honest, like some of mine have like tanked and done minus 70% sometimes, and you're sitting there like, okay, do I really believe in this company? Like, and you have to kind of make that call. And, you know, and then others have gone up to ridiculous heights that I never expected to happen. For example, Nvidia being one. Not financial advice, by the way.
No financial advice on the podcast.
But like that's what can happen if you pick well. And usually I just tell people to lean into spaces where they've got a little bit more knowledge. So if you look at my individual stock portfolio, it's like heavy financial tech businesses, because I'm like geeky about it. Like I understand those businesses, right? And I've also got a couple of hospitality businesses in there, because I'm like, oh, they're going to do well because they've done it right, and I've seen that. I've spent 10 years in that game, so I understand it. So I'm utilizing and leveraging the knowledge that I have about certain industries. You know, I don't know anything about solar or electric vehicles, for example. So I don't really tend to go into those spaces. So I'm looking at like the spaces where I could identify that company is going to be a great business, and then that's where I double down on.
I love that. So honestly, I could speak about investing all day. I mean, it's one of my favorite topics. I think people probably on the podcast know that. So in terms of expected returns, we did say between like, if it's like a global index funds, between like 7 to 10%, we're roughly thinking that people should expect to receive. And I think, to be honest, generally speaking, I think when you're getting into investing for the first time, like you said, like, can you stomach that drop? I think when you're going into an index fund, I think the drop isn't so huge. There's still a bit of a drop because one of my global index funds had a drop, and it's not common for it, for that kind of drop. What stocks, sometimes you can get 35-40% drops in a day, which is crazy. So imagine you put £100, 60. Yeah. A lot of people couldn't stomach that, especially as a beginner. So I feel like it's a muscle that you have to kind of train, like your mindset, right? Yeah. And you talked a little bit about like the importance of mindset. How do you like make sure? How did you develop your mindset?
Reps.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what you're going to feel like until it happens. So that's why I say start small and think big.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with £50 a month. I'm going to dip my toe in first. I'm going to start with £100 a month, dip my toe in first, whatever that number is that you're comfortable with. And that might be from your budget. You could afford £300-400 a month, for example, but you're not going to do that yet because you need to understand and know how you feel. Everyone does it when they first download the app. They check it about 7 times a day. Like, what's it doing? It's down 2%. Like, oh my God, they said I was going to do 10% a year. Like, but then you quickly come to just turn off from that.
Yeah,
that's what I did at the start, and I just completely now I just don't care. Like, I will look at it every month. I'd say I look at it once or twice a month.
That's good. That's
and
really good.
Before, I was probably 6-7 times a day at the beginning, and that's totally fine. But that's what you learn. You start to see the fluctuations. You start to see that, Donald Trump gets elected and this happens, and or Joe Biden gets elected and this happens, or COVID hits and this happens, and wages go down and recessions hit and all these things, and you start to live through all of these cycles and you start to see how they have an effect on the market, whether it goes up or down from these types of things. And that's when you're like, oh, okay, cool, I kind of understand this now. And as you say, you can just do your index funds, or you can go a little bit deeper. It doesn't have to be like there's not a one right way. You need to find what suits you and then really just stick with the plan for a long period of time, because that's how compounding will really kick off.
Yeah, honestly, sometimes I forget to look at my portfolio. The only time sometimes I look at it is if I get an alert from my investment app to say, oh, this has gone up. I was like, okay, I just look at it. It's more like happiness. Oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm like,
I've got a few things set up. So like I've got some of the funds and stuff and the individual stocks I've got like set up. If it drops 5%,
I've got that as well.
Hit me up. Let me know, because I want
got that as well, so I can get ready to just like add some.
That's what. Yeah, that's like you quickly come to see that like if you're doing it as a long period of time, like for me and you, we've got probably 20-30 years ahead of us. If history repeats itself, the stock market's going to be a lot higher in that time frame. So if it drops down to lower than it's been for a long period of time, I see that as an opportunity. And I think once you can develop that mindset, you can really pay off. People say that people get rich in the crashes, they don't get rich in the booms, because then you buy at the bottom. That's when you're ready. And you can get the stock market's crash. If you can stomach it, then that's when you can really see some big returns.
It's crazy. So you talked about the importance on your Instagram of getting to your first 100,000 in net worth. Why is it important to get to your first 100,000 as quick as possible?
So basically, net worth absolutely explodes after the first 100k, and the reason being is the amount that is then compounding is then growing at a faster rate. when you do it like, so basically your whole goal, if you can get to £100,000, the distance it takes you to get from £100,000 to £1 million is a lot shorter than it will take you to get from 0 to 100k.
Yeah.
So that is really, if you can get to 100k, you can really kick on a lot faster than it would have taken you to get to from that first 100k. So if you can do everything you possibly can to get to £100,000, that's when life will change quite a lot faster than you expect. You still have to keep doing the same things. You still have to keep growing your part. But that's why I say it's really, really important to get to 100k. And I feel like at 100k, the reason why I say the 100k as well, another reason is the average pension pot, according to the FCA, is £61,000. And that is not enough money for anyone to survive. I think it works out around £11,500. So yeah, you want to live off £11,500 a year? Like, I don't. So
in 30 years, you're probably spending that in 2 weeks with inflation.
Right.
I'm joking, maybe not that crazy, but wow, that's mad.
But it's not going to pay for much, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to pay for much.
Yeah.
So you want to live that life, but if you can get yourself to 100k, that's giving you a little bit more buffer. And you're going to be massively above average. And honestly, you go and ask a 75-year-old now, what's it like living off state pension? And they'll turn around to you and say, it's shit.
Yeah, that's nowhere near enough.
Right.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah. So 100k, net worth, it absolutely explodes after it. So you get yourself there as fast as you possibly can.
I love that. So, I feel like we've talked end to end, right? So with this conversation, people can get themselves out of debt, right? They've got the steps to get out of debt. Whether it be 9 to 5, have a side hustle on the side business on the side, or increase your income, get yourself out of debt, start saving, start investing and saving, and then get yourself to 100k.
Done the whole steps.
And then get yourself to millions in net worth is possible, right? And
for the everyday person.
Exactly. It's possible for the everyday person. And I think a lot of people think these things are out of touch, but I think the important things are consistency. Discipline, I think, is very important, because you need to just keep on adding.
And also the discipline not to like lifestyle inflate.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, enjoy your life. If you I always say this to people, right? Like when you kind of get to a point where, like, let's say your salary increase, of course you want to spend some on yourself. That's fine, right? Don't spend all, but that's what people do. They spend all on themselves straight away and don't put nothing towards their future self, and then that's when they kind of get into the problem.
I've been that guy, man.
Yeah, no, same here. I'm sure we've all done it. So Sammie, it's been great. So yeah, talk a little bit about your platform, Up the Gains. Where can people find you? Kind of the things that you kind of do on your platform. People want to reach out.
Yeah, of course. Look, we have a podcast. We have a YouTube channel. Basically, for me, it's like wherever you want to learn, we're there. We've got over 400 free guides on the website. You can come learn everything you need to know about making money, saving money, investing money. That's really our 3 core pillars, because I feel like that's going to change the most lives. But there is debt on there as well. We have a program as well called 123 Financially Fit, which is basically a video course on pretty much learning everything that we learned today on this, but in a bit more depth, and a few exercises and quizzes that you can do to kind of lay things out for you and your own life. So it's really kind of like your financial best mate throughout your whole journey. Come say hi, sign up to the mailing list. We've got about 30,000 people on there, like doing their thing. And we're just big on community. Like I give away absolutely everything that I possibly can to help people get from 0 to 1, because it's the most important thing. If we can solve that, then life is a lot different for a lot more people in this country. So
I hope we can. I saw a video, somebody posted an episode that I did with Andrew, actually. I can't remember their page name. Shout out to them, thank you. I think they know who they are. Shout out to them for sharing it on TikTok. That went viral on TikTok. And I saw a lot of people in the comments. I was reading the comments, and encouragement. Some people saying they invest, some people saying how to invest, which I love. I like that question, and I like that curiosity, and I just encourage people to just continue and keep on doing it, because it's true. If we can share this with more people are putting money aside, growing their money, building their wealth and things like that. I think it's so important. So yeah, no, Sammie, it's great having this conversation with you. Thank you so much for sharing story, sharing your time, sharing so much wisdom and tips. I really, really appreciate it. Love to have you back on. Do you have any final words for watchers and listeners?
Yeah, look, like if there's bits in this that you didn't understand, like don't beat yourself up. Like we weren't taught this stuff in school. So a little improvement every day. I think it's like 1% better each day. Just try and learn a tiny little bit. Don't take it upon yourself like you need to be a personal finance expert. That's what we're here for. Like come and ask us questions about when you're struggling and doing those tiny little bits and those little minor changes in your life. Like even opening a high interest savings account when your bank's giving you 2% and they're giving you 5%. It's going to make a massive difference to your life. So just do small steps at a time and you'll get there.
Thank you so much, Sammie. It's great speaking to you. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode podcast, and you see you next week's episode.